Indiana's hat tips to Casablanca, Pam Grier, Shakespeare, and Willy Wonka. Dolomites in charge, Tom Popo's a go. Lightsabers clash in the Thunderdome. This miscellaneous film festival, where every movie's incredible. You never know what to expect. This film festival's the best. This film festival's the best.
Welcome, friends, Romans, countrymen, wrong play, to the Miscellaneous Film Festival podcast, and this our mini film festival all about Shakespeare. Tonight, this is part 4, where we're discussing The Tragedy of Macbeth from 2021, directed by Joel Coen, and starring Denzel Washington and Frances McDormand. This was not only a fantastic rendition of Macbeth, but visually such a compelling movie. Every single shot is a gorgeous photograph, creating shapes with the scenery, the shadows. Absolutely marvelous.
Yeah, and it has this, actually, before I get going, I should tell the audience, I spoke with our dear host, Mr. Jacin, about 2 weeks ago, and he had mentioned he had seen The Tragedy of Macbeth for this upcoming show that we're talking on and recording right now. But he didn't say anything else about it, and I've been worried that he did not like it. And it's wonderful to know that he thought it was excellent. I think that Denzel.
I love that you're facing out and speaking to the audience.
Hey, I love Gremlins too.
Right now.
At any time, the film reels can go haywire.
If we were filming this, you'd basically be turning right to the camera.
But no, I was genuinely a little nervous. I'm like, oh boy, am I going to have to defend this movie? It sounds like no, that it's a mutually respected and liked movie.
I will say,
here it comes, folks.
Oh man. I've found its visual appeal greater than the performances, which is a heavy thing, I think, to say when we're talking about all the great actors in this cast. I felt like the visual aspect was the predominant focus of the director. Everyone was giving really strong performances, but the camera doesn't seem to be there for them.
Yeah.
It felt like a series of moving photographs.
I can understand that. For me, I really loved the performances in this, but I find them to be heavily augmented by the scenery and the photography. Because so those who haven't seen the awesome trailer for this movie, it's shot in very stark black and white by one of the Coen brothers. And it's also very brutalist. Like architecturally speaking, it has a lot of like clean, like harsh angled corridors and hallways. Mm-hmm. So it's a very oppressive, feeling. And all the actors give these very like brooding types of line delivery and performances. So I think the whole thing is kind of this evil womb that we're watching, slowly evolve into something.
Well, actually, Joel Coen was quoted as saying he wanted to give the film a look untethered from reality. Yes. And so he chose to shoot everything on sound stages. Right. And that's why you get these very blank sets with very clean lines.
Yeah.
And sharp contrasts between black and white, between light and shadow.
Yes. And that really fits in with the theme of the play. Like I think Shakespeare's a genius. Like I've said it in a previous talk that we've had that I find him to be as a contender for greatest thinker in human history. Mm-hmm. But Macbeth, and it's one of his top plays for me, like top mm-hmm. 5. But it's like a really good punk rock song where 3 minutes and you're out. It does one thing super, super well. And what mm-hmm. it does is it's a great rumination on the paranoia that comes along with the hunger for power. Mm-hmm. So, Macbeth kills his king so that he can assume the throne.
Well, because first, you're getting a little bit ahead. Because the very first thing is he is given a prophecy.
Yes.
That he will move up in status in the nobility, mm-hmm. and then become king.
And then his partner will not be king, but his son will be, is what's the implication.
But his partner, his
Yes.
friend's son, Banquo's
Right.
son, will be king after Macbeth.
Mhm.
And so it puts that in his mind that he prophetically is entitled to this.
And
I think-
therefore justified in murder. Yeah, this movie, I think it's my favorite Shakespeare adaptation so far that I've
Oh,
seen.
wow. That's
Uh,
great.
It's because it's so hyper stylized in the way that I like. Sometimes I'm like, oh, that's too much style. It's over, it's like style over substance.
Mhm.
But this to me like really hits home. I also love seeing an older Denzel with the great like gray white beard. Like I just think he looks incredible in this movie. And Frances McDormand, she's actually for several years now, she's been my favorite actress. She's just incredible in this. She plays the perfect kind of corrupting like devil on the shoulder of Macbeth. And Macbeth is already himself quite corrupt. So they're like a negative feedback loop together.
An American literary critic, Harold Bloom, who is a former professor of humanities at Yale, actually wrote that the Macbeths are the only happily married couple in Shakespeare. In part one of this, we talked about Beatrice and Benedict in Much Ado About Nothing. In part 3, we talked about the lovers from A Midsummer Night's Dream. In all of those, you get to see these people fall in love and get married, and then the play more or less ends. This is the play where you get to see a married couple, already married, living out their married life together as partners. And when we meet Lady Macbeth, she's getting a message from her husband who says, hey, I was told that these things are going to happen. And she jumps into action to help achieve that because she recognizes, this may be more of an interpretation, she recognizes his goals as her goals in the terms of Elizabethan's time.
They're very
in
aligned.
terms of the Elizabethan era, that may have been more of she cannot move forward in life unless her husband can.
Yes, like this is definitely more than a tragedy. I would say it's a cautionary tale of the desire for power, also the desire of legacy building. Because Macbeth is extraordinarily nervous and paranoid at the fact that, yes, it's prophesized that he will be king, but it's also prophesized that he will not bear children that will be kings. That will be to his military partner, essentially his second in command. And that, I think, tarnishes his view or vision of what he would like his legacy to be. So he goes and orders, the deaths of his second in command and the son so that he, can essentially start a dynasty. Now, this doesn't end up working out. And we also see this play out in the real world, right? Like, I'd say a really good 20th century example of this would have been Lenin and Stalin in the USSR. And, once you secure a position of power, you've got more to lose. So you need to continually at all times be hyper paranoid around those around you, including those that helped you even achieve that seat. So, and that's definitely here in Macbeth. Again, this play does that one thing really, really well, but it's not multifaceted. That's not the point of Macbeth. I think it really goes into like the corrupting pursuit of power heavily. It doesn't really talk about love. It doesn't really talk about joy. It's very dark compared to the other plays that we've spoken about tonight.
Well, and where it does, it is the more earnest side of love.
Correct. Yeah.
The bonds that would drive you to kill.
Right.
And in this, it seems like you're buying into the darkness.
Yeah, and Joel Coen especially, I think, really tapped into that because this movie goes hard in that direction. And again, like the stark black and white, the soundstage, I love the sets in this movie too because they're engineered, right? They're not shot on location.
Yes.
And the engineering of them makes them all the more oppressive. And that's exactly the feeling you want in this movie. So this is definitely the dark movie of the 5 that we're talking about. Of course, King Lear is also a tragedy, but this one I think is much more focused on the dark side of the soul.
Joel Coen was going for a look similar to Ingmar Bergman's The Seventh Seal.
And that makes sense. And that's a great film. And
again, another kind of darker rumination about death and circumstance. And
yes. And I find that this is also and I think Macbeth is this way in general, but in particular in this film, it's got a heavy layer of existentialism to it. And again, that death drive and that heavy incentive, right? To like, it's now or never. We're getting older. Like we're going to do this now. I also love that Macbeth himself, he's kind of going mad throughout the movie. Like once he's assassinated the king, he sees these different, they're not necessarily witches, but he sees these three cloaked figures that are always intervening and talking to him. He also sees these ravens that are flying around him and talking to himself. There's a scene where this room is like filling up in water, and we're not even sure if that's actually happening or not. But that's what's so great about it.
One of the benefits of this being a film versus a stage play is Joel Coen getting to use visual representations like a room floating up, being drowning in the emotion that you're feeling, or drowning in your madness. Speaking of the witches, Catherine Hunter, who plays all three of the witches at once,
she's so good.
Is so fucking good.
Yeah. She's such a badass actress.
Oh my
totally underrated. Her voice is amazing.
And she's predominantly a physical actress who was trained to be a clown,
contortionist,
done pantomime, contortionist, and the way she moves makes an otherworldliness of it. You mentioned the crows that he sees. She can, as the three weird sisters, the quote unquote witches, can sometimes just burst into a flock of crows.
Right.
But she will stand and drape her cloak and cowl around her as though she's a crow on a line with its wings drawn in.
Yeah. And her performance in this is so good. Yeah. Amazing. I agree. And also some of my favorite lines from Shakespeare come from this play. Like, you know, the by the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes. Like that is ace level stuff. Also, by the way, again, this is to the audience. Something Wicked This Way Comes is a fantastic Ray Bradbury book, which takes its title from that line. But not anything to do with Macbeth, but a wonderful, wonderful book.
I should mention that this episode is sponsored by Ray Bradbury's
his family estate.
But only that book.
But only that book, right? Not Fahrenheit 451.
No Martian Chronicles.
Right. The illustrated band, that's out.
We urge you to purchase no other Ray Bradbury book than this one, because it comes from the title comes from Macbeth.
But yeah, there's so many great lines in this, and I really love Denzel's delivery of these lines, especially when he's kind of hunched over and talking to himself, like that kind of thinking out loud. There's so much like angst and like suffering in what he's talking about.
Well, and this is part of his personal legacy of performing Macbeth. He did Macbeth in college.
Yep.
He was in Kenneth Branagh's Much Ado About Nothing. He used to perform in Central Park when he was still a student. Yeah. On Broadway, he was in Julius Caesar playing Marcus Brutus. So
which is a kind of Macbeth character.
He is a Shakespearean. What you might not think of Denzel Washington as a Shakespearean actor because of his extensive film career. Right. But he is a Shakespearean actor.
No, he's legit. And I saw this movie actually before I saw Much Ado About Nothing. It's really cool to see his evolution as an actor, because I think that, you know, with there's a lot of good Denzel performances in movies, but I think nowadays he's become underrated, and I don't think people know this side of him that well. Because
really?
This movie didn't.
Why underrated?
Maybe not underrated, but he's no longer seen as like a leading man, right? Like I see him that way, but I'm
very skeptical of who says Denzel Washington's not a leading man.
No, I don't mean that.
Are you saying he's not like the go-to? He's not.
He's no longer a go-to for the public, I would say. Like, he's really well known, but no one can. It's harder for people to point out like what his recent movies are that they really liked, right? But I don't think it's for his lack of quality at all. I think he's become an even better actor. This movie is only 4 years old, and it's one of his best performances, in my opinion. And it's great to see an actor continually get better. There's so many actors that I love that kind of cashed out at some point, and I don't blame them. Hollywood sounds like a pretty exhausting place, to say the least.
American movies certainly are not always kind to older
Right.
actors. They kind of get pigeonholed
Right.
into only certain roles. Like you end up playing the president,
Right.
which
Or
which
the
is-
grandfather
or
of the main
grandfather or
character.
something. Even worse for women. Frances
Yes.
McDormand is a 3-time Academy Award winner for Best Actress,
Deservedly so.
deservedly so. Even she's having to overcome that prejudice.
Yeah, if not for being married to one of the Coen brothers, it would be worse for her, no doubt.
Is Frances McDormand married to one of the Coen brothers?
Joel Coen, that's his wife. Yeah, they're married. They've been married ever since Blood Simple. Like, he's boosted her so much, and I'm so happy that he's done it because she's so clearly talented.
She doesn't need it. I think
I
with,
agree.
Like, Emma Thompson and Kenneth Branagh, we were talking about with Much Ado About Nothing.
Yes,
It's these two powerhouse talents
right,
that happen to be married,
right.
but by no means is it nepotism because
Oh, no, I don't mean that. But clearly,
If-
she's got a better bargaining chip when she needs it. Because most of her best performances are in Coen movies, right? Like Burn After Reading or Fargo or Blood Simple
Sure.
even. Or Raising Arizona. She's hilarious in that, even though it's a supporting role. But you got to make sure you get his dip tat.
what was that line again?
When she's getting Holly Hunter all nervous, like, oh, you got to get your kids vaccinated. Don't forget their dip tats. Like, she's so...
That's awesome.
It's so great. I definitely rewatch Raising Arizona. But anyway, let's get back to the tragedy of Macbeth. Yeah, it's great to see older actors that are continually getting better, and they really like lay it out there in this movie. I love the performances. It's honestly nice to see an older cast that all have lead roles. That's something I kind of love whenever I can find it, because oftentimes you get something else like Cocoon. Everyone's old, but who cares? So
I realize now I haven't seen Cocoon in a while, so I probably need to watch it again.
No, I
have
like that
very
movie.
fond memories of Cocoon.
I like that movie, but I wonder how it's not an actor's dream though, right? Whereas like being in a really stylish, big budget Shakespeare adaptation like Macbeth, that's like
Yes.
something an actor wants to chew on hard.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I like Cocoon as well. But it wouldn't be like the thing that I thirsted for as an actor. So yeah, I'm really happy you liked this. I was genuinely a little nervous.
Oh no, let me reassure you, this was a beautiful movie. I recommend this to everybody.
And it did badly.
That's a shame.
It is.
There's no accounting for taste.
Or marketing for that matter.
I would absolutely recommend Joel Coen's The Tragedy of Macbeth, especially for folks in the visual arts.
Mm-hmm.
If you think of, and this is not a direct comparison, but if you think of Poor Things that had William Dafoe and Emma Stone in it, how that was so visually creative and visually wild, while this is a little more stiff and, no pun intended, black and white, it gives you something amazing to look at in every single frame.
Yes.
One thing I got from it is after being involved in several productions of Macbeth, I realized I never really fully understood what was happening when they talk about Birnam Wood coming to the castle. I always thought that was semi-metaphorical. And then watching this and seeing Macduff explain to the soldiers how to trim the branches and use that as kind of camouflage. And then the way it was shot, too, on a soundstage, kind of very simply and angularly. I finally got that, and I think it's a treat, if you're a fan of Shakespeare, to see a production that shows you something new that was there. There's lots of different interpretations. This one, I think, was less interpreted and more devoted to the original text. And all the same, it showed me something new, and I really appreciate that.
That's awesome. And yeah, I think it's Joel Coen near his best. You know, I love the Coen brothers.
It definitely doesn't look like anything he's done before.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that from a director. You're talking about older actors. I appreciate directors who are getting more and more opportunities to make work or have a legacy of good work, switching things up, trying something new,
Absolutely. And
bringing their craft to a different style.
Absolutely. And, it did get a theatrical release, but it is an Apple-produced movie. So Apple,
The one good thing you've done.
if you want to give us advertising money, everyone should go out and get at least 1 month of Apple TV so they can watch the tragedy of Macbeth.
Thank you again for making this part of our mini Shakespeare festival.
Absolutely. Thanks for
This was
talking
a
with
lot
me
of fun.
about it.
And thanks everybody for listening. This has been the Miscellaneous Film Festival podcast. I'm Jacin.
I'm Dustin.
And we'll see you again in part 5, where we're discussing Akira Kurosawa's Ron. Cheers.
Cheers.
Quills dipped in blood, ink so dry. Your empire crumbles, truth in a lie. Blank verse screaming, scratch it raw.